You're listening to Creating a Universe, a Love Anarchy podcast hosted by William J. Rogers. On this show, we follow the journey of creatives, artists, and entrepreneurs who are making a name for themselves in the ever-evolving landscape of today's industry. Featuring an insight into both Love Anarchy and the LovAnaverse music universe, as well as the individual projects and stories of each of our guests, from the music industry and beyond. So whether you're a budding creative or simply interested in what goes on behind the scenes, this is the podcast for you. Hello and welcome to Creating a Universe. I'm your host, William J. Rogers, and today I'm here with my good friend and LovAnaverse co-creator, Toby Cozens.
Yo!
How's it going, man?
Guys. Yeah, good, man. Really good.
So Toby's a good friend of mine. We've known each other more or less our whole lives since we were kids, like, I don't know, 8 years old or something. So yeah, we were in bands together growing up, and of course formed Flavour Nurse together, which is what we're going to focus on today. Flavour Nurse kind of really was like, I like to call it the seed that started it all. In that, along that trajectory, we ended up creating the Love Anarchy company and expanding the whole thing into the LovAnaverse music universe. So we just wanted to kind of follow that journey and talk about how we kind of got from being some teenagers that were just kind of having a bit of fun to where we are now. So, Toby, where would you say this whole thing began?
Well, I mean, obviously, aside from the fact that we've known each other and been in and out of like coming up with ideas for musical projects since we were literally like 10 or something. I mean, we met younger than that, and then it didn't take too long to like realize that we both like rock music and both play guitar. So then there were times like I think I remember like turning up, whacking out my like classical guitar, and then you like whipping out a BC Rich Warlock and me being like, oh, okay. But yeah, and then obviously countless different musical ventures and stuff that we came up with, like writing songs like together and stuff. But I think Flavour Nurse really kind of started out in your dad's flat jamming Plush by Stone Temple Pilots. I think that's probably like my first real Flavour Nurse memories, was kind of just like that felt like the start for me was Plush, and was it Them Bones that we did?
Did we play Them Bones? There was some Alice in Chains in there. I remember that we definitely jammed Wood a bit by Alice in Chains. I feel like we probably jammed Them Bones and some other tracks.
I think, we did, because I remember, that one's just a bit of a struggle with the...
at that time we were definitely pretty into grunge and 90s alt rock and that kind of stuff. I would agree with you, like that just when we started hanging out at that point and jamming that kind of music, that was when Flavour Nurse started coming about. If I'm right in thinking, I think that was about 2014 in my dad's flat, at least, like you mentioned. So the flat in Hackney.
Yeah, that would have been the tail end of 2014.
I think was that when we were like 18? Is that right? Something like that. We were young. I think that was like we just started kind of.
Yeah, I was 18. I was 18 in 2014.
Yeah. So we started working jobs. We were done with education at that point. And then we just like started kind of thinking like, all right, but and
we started writing music, and I was still kind of turning up to yours, and I think I was still had that really crappy like Red Blast bass.
Oh, fantastic! So we got to talk about that bass. So that was so we had a bass. It was called the Bitch, right?
Yeah.
And I bought that off a friend in school when I was like 15 or 16. It was for the band that we were in as teenagers. We were in a band when we were like 15 or 16 called Mindset for Mayhem.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, like we both always played guitar. But I was in that band and we needed a bass player. So I was like, oh, Toby, if I can find a bass somewhere, would you be up for playing bass in that band? So I remember buying that off a friend. Quick divulgence here. And yeah, he just really needed to get rid of it. And I got it off of him for like 25 quid or something. I think I traded 25 quid and a bunch of chocolate bars.
Yeah, but a couple of crunchy bars I seem to remember. Like, how it went.
They were thrown in there, yeah.
But yeah.
So it was a real piece of crap though.
Yeah, it was proper like my first bass, and you know, I obviously took it. I wasn't going to go and buy my own. Like I was 16 with no money.
Yeah.
So you know, we just one evening we just thought, yeah, we'll customize this bad boy by sort of like setting fire to it and, you know, like putting cigarettes out in it and stuff. Like, you know, we thought
like carving things
really cool.
And it was, I can't remember what the brand was. It was
it was Blast,
brand.
And we scraped that off and etched in bitch on it, and it became the bitch. And yeah, served
that's the beginning of your bass journey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then, you know, I was kind of reunited with it for a short period of time, and then you were recording on that 4-track recorder, and you showed me like really early versions of Kicking Around, and a couple of songs that never kind of made it into the public eye, which was Fly, and
that's right, yeah.
Something like Fantasize. And Love Is the Reason was also one of those songs.
The fourth one. Yeah, so I would actually say that I kind of remember this. I remember that there was 4 original songs that we scrapped together, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, we were kind of hanging out and we started jamming some music, stuff that we liked. But like, yeah, I was kind of putting those songs together, and I remember the 4th one that I started to get together was Love Is the Reason. And that was like, you know, I was like, okay, I need a more sort of ballady track. And I remember that when I wrote that song, it felt kind of more significant. And then when I showed you that one, you came around, and we jammed out on that song. Yeah. Then at that point, it really started to feel like we had something. Like we had the kind of basis for our project here now.
Yeah, and like that song as well, I think that was kind of like Love Is the Reason was where I first kind of like tried to get myself involved in more of the writing process as well. Like, I think I had to go at like putting some lyrical ideas down for it, and like that was definitely when I kind of started getting the confidence to be like, oh yeah, you know, just like get involved in that. Like, and yeah, that felt like we really had something there, and yeah, it just really took off from there. And then, you know,
yeah, so I would say that was like the very kind of formation, I suppose. I guess the next step from there was I got another crappy flat in Hackney that I lived in.
Yeah,
and that one was especially crappy, and so yeah, at that point for a good while you were coming round.
Yeah, but pretty much every weekend. Yeah, every weekend
we would just jam in there. We'd be in there all night. I mean, I literally had it was a flat share, so I just had like a tiny single bedroom or whatever that we'd mostly have to hang out and jam in or whatever.
It would always take. I seem to remember it would be like the sole purpose of us meeting up then would be like to jam. But, you know, we wouldn't actually really get our instruments out until about 3 a.m. And like, you know, before then it would be like meet at the pub, do whatever there, like chat some shit to some people, drink some beers, go to the shop, buy a load more beers, go back. And like, there would be, you know, various people would walk in and out of your flat that you lived with. It would be like, yo, come and have a beer with us, man. Like, and, you know, we would eventually, I mean, all credit due, like, you know, we did actually do stuff. It was just, you know, a lot of time spent doing the partying bit, and then, you know, 3 a.m. And then you usually would get to like, you know, early hours of the morning. I'd try and get like a couple of hours sleep and then just like get on the train and go home at like, I don't know, 11 o'clock the next day. But that was definitely our routine for quite a long time, and it worked out.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
It got things going. I mean, so I guess at that time we would have been like,
Yeah, we've been 19,
19?
20.
Nine,
Yeah.
nine. Yeah, okay, yeah. So we're kind of like 19 at that point.
Mm.
Yeah. And so yeah, obviously we had definitely priority to just have a lot of fun and yeah,
Mm.
and whatever. But yeah, so during
It's character building. That's what it is.
Certainly, and there was certainly a lot of characters and stuff involved when you're living in like a slum in like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
and you're 19 getting wasted.
Mm.
Anyway, yeah. So the main productive thing I think we did from that is that we obviously kind of like got our songs together a bit more, and we practiced a lot, and we kind of refined parts together. And then we, with our friend Marcel, we made demos. Right, we
Yeah.
made demos of those 4 songs. I think.
Yeah.
So as you said, I had the 4-track recorder. That's
Yeah.
what I used for years, like as a teenager and stuff. But yeah, obviously, like Marcel, he actually knew how to use Pro Tools, and you know, was actually like a good sound engineer. So so we went with him to do some demos. I think we gave him a bit of money.
Yeah, and I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure we bought my new bass, or we went to go and get it. Like, it could have even been the day before we recorded with Marcel, or like the week before. But I feel like it was like that Friday we met up. I bought Fender Precision bass, and then the next day we went and recorded with Marcel, or something. I don't know. My memory might be a little bit blurred, but like I bought the new bass to record those tracks, and then that was like
get Flavour Nurse going.
Yeah, it felt like
was it called Flavour Nurse then?
I think it was Flavour Nurse. I think we had decided on that, and
we never had any other names, but like, yeah, it's definitely still early days at this point. I mean, even in terms of like you mentioned about the lyrics and stuff that we were writing, when you said that, we were talking about kind of "Love Is the Reason" lyrics. They were actually really cool lyrics, I think. But one thing that we kept, I mean, we've always been evolving really a lot. We were always kind of reassessing the situation, and so even those, we're talking about Kicking Around and Love Is the Reason, we recorded those demos back in 2015, I guess. But they were quite different versions of the tracks, I suppose. Like the core essence was there, especially Love Is the Reason. The instrumental is more or less the same, but we did end up rewriting lyrics and things along the way. But yeah, I mean, so that was the next step, really. So 2015, we recorded some demos. And I actually remember the original idea was like you were going to play bass and I was going to play guitar.
Yeah.
And I was really just kind of focused on playing guitar. I didn't want to sing.
It was a long time until you kind
of... that was maybe one of the biggest things that held us back, really, because we actually spent a load of time. We were like, okay, we'll make those demos and we'll use them to try and put a band together. We'll get other members and we'll get a singer. And it was obviously difficult to get other members, but yeah, kind of impossible to get a singer.
And in high insight, we were quite sort of shy. Like, we weren't ready to kind of come out and show anyone anything until we kind of had what we thought was the full package. So yeah, I mean, in high insight, like, if we were doing it again now with everything that I know, we probably could have got ourselves out there more in terms of like just in terms of like trying to suggest any ideas for anyone like starting a band now, if they were in the same situation as us, where it's like, say, just a bass player and just a guitarist. If you just get yourself out there and turn up at an open mic and just be like, I'm looking for band members, then that could have been something that we could have done that maybe might have changed things a bit for us, but we sort of went our own way with it.
That's worth mentioning. I appreciate you bringing it up. It's absolutely true. I mean, and I would definitely own it in myself, in that, like, yeah, my approach was very much, I was living in my head, like trying to kind of, um, you know, we wanted to make this vision. We spoke about, Flavour Nurse. The idea of it was that it was kind of like our dream band, and so inherently it was kind of difficult from the get go because there was sort of perfectionism involved, and as you say, you're kind of shy. Like, at that time, I was definitely quite anxious and stuff. So I didn't have the confidence to sing. Like, I sang in bands before, like when in one that we were a teenager and stuff, and eventually I kind of like had some bad experiences and got my confidence totally knocked, and really just didn't want to sing again. But then I sang on those demos because we had written lyrics and melodies, and we needed to, have a representation of the songs there. And then we kind of got stuck, not able to find a singer or a band or whatever for ages.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of got so used to listening to the songs with my voice on them that, eventually it was kind of like, couldn't imagine them any other way, and it was just a case of me needing to kind of have the confidence to just do it. And I mean, perhaps that wouldn't have even happened, like, hadn't I not like had you to bounce off of in that way. Ultimately it would have been you that kind of gave me the confidence to go and do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember just kind of getting really frustrated with the band search process. It just, I was getting really tired of sort of, people being like, oh, how's the band going, man? It would be like, yeah, we're still looking for members. And, I think I remember just, us talking and I think even me at one point being like, oh, maybe I should sing or something. And like, I'm not really the world's greatest singer by any stretch, but maybe that then inspired you to be like, well, I can actually sing, so like maybe it's time for me to for you to get back into it and give it another go. And we were all
in the end we're both singing now. We both sang on the stage.
We do, both sang on stage, both sang on the,
So okay, so all right, we basically, after I kind of getting over that, and I mean, for me personally, like, I guess I just had a lot of issues at the time, and needed to kind of overcome a load of shit, just holding myself back in general. So the next stage was that, we had this opportunity where we lived together, right? At your place.
Yeah, my parents moved to Malaysia.
Yeah, that was absolutely wicked.
So that was a
total godsend.
It was sick, to be fair. I mean, we had a decent, pretty big detached house to ourselves that we could make as much noise in as we wanted. And I mean, it was so good. I mean, obviously, you went through your own journey there as well. And for me, it was just like, it was just wicked to, like, live with your best mate and, work on music the whole time. Yeah, so good.
That was it. And that's what it was. So, I mean, we decided that, we just really wanted to focus on that. So once we moved, once I moved in, we set up our own kind of crude little recording setup. I
mean, we had no money, so what we had was like, I'm pretty sure it was like, the Focusrite, like beginner pack, the basic, or whatever. And like some really shit laptop that, like,
it could just about run.
Like, my parents didn't want anymore or something. And then there was like, we got pretty good at setting it up for karaoke as well, where we like we ran it all back out through a little bass amp, so we could do little sing songs and stuff like that. But little crude setup, all sort of projected onto the TV. So we could sit in the living. So we could sit in the living room. I mean, it was not good for your back. Like, because we were mostly sitting on the floor with the laptop,
just
like,
floor cushions
on a little. But yeah, well, you made the first. Well, not the first sort of 3 demos, I'd say, of the next sort of like phase of Flavour Nurse, which was really cool. And that's when you started really, giving the whole production thing a go. And so that in itself was like a massive transition. Like,
it was a huge thing for me. So I mean, because we'd had that experience recording with Marcel, and he was a cool dude, a talented dude, and I remember actually, I mentioned about him using Pro Tools, but I think that it was him that he used Reaper. He used Pro Tools and Reaper, and he praised Reaper a lot and told us about it and the fact that you can, get it for free. You can install it at least and set it up, and obviously we got to just kind of sit on his shoulder and watch him kind of put together the demos we were working on with him. So definitely having had that experience, I kind of felt like I could give that a go, properly myself, and instead of just trying to compress loads of tracks on top of each other in this little 4-track recorder I'd grown up with.
Another thing about the 4-track recorder as well was very unforgiving. Like, you couldn't really fuck up, otherwise you'd have to start again. Like,
no, you couldn't, and there's nothing to look at. There's no reference. And punch-ins, they're just like.
But the worst thing was programming drums on that thing. Like,
I don't even know, man. When I think about it now, I don't even know how I made it.
No, man, it was so hard. Like, it was a digital 4-track. It was a great thing.
Not analog.
Yeah, but Boss Micro BR wasn't it? Yeah,
but that's just of a certain generation, because all the older people will say about analog recorders.
We had little,
and all the modern people will talk about computers. But we kind of just got that weird in between slot where I had a digital 4-track recorder.
Yeah, it was cool because I mean we both had one, and then
we both had one. Yeah,
and
that was a result because I broke mine or lost it or whatever. And
and I've still got it. I've still got my one.
Really? Wow.
Probably with an SD card that has maybe some stuff on it. I don't know.
Wow.
Who knows?
I don't even know where those original demos are. Like, I don't know if they're still in existence. I don't think I have them. Those ones we did with Marcel. But
well, the laptop that had everything on it kind of didn't it get a bit like?
Oh yeah, it did. There was a bunch of files got deleted from it. Unfortunately, but happened. But yeah, exactly. So at this point, 2016, we're in at your place. We have this crude little setup, and I'm basically just sitting there all day, every day, making Flavour Nurse stuff, like working on writing songs and putting some productions together, and kind of learning how to kind of produce that and mix it to some basic level.
Yeah, and I just go to work. And we just message the whole time, and you'd be like sort of telling me what you were doing and stuff, and I'd just be like, okay. And then as soon as I get home, it was like, cool, let's like this. Now I'm going to come back and do the band thing as well. I used to be really excited to just sort of like get home and just.
So that was it. That was cool, and then because we started to kind of get some momentum going, so from that point we were like, all right, we're gonna make a presence on social media. And get a band together. And obviously the idea of getting a band together now was much simpler when it was a case of like, I'm going to sing the songs, and we've got you and me here, and we can write the songs and we can produce the songs and show everybody their parts. All we need is really a drummer and another guitarist. And at that point we could kind of call favors because we knew people, and Marcel, who had produced the tracks with, he kind of just did us a turn, really, and he already knew some of those tracks, and he's a great drummer. So he was like, okay,
you sort of stood in on guitar for him in the past as well, hadn't you? So
I did, I guess I did like a little swap with him or something. I played guitar for his band on a gig, and so I guess there was some kind of friendly exchange there. The idea was just that, like, if we wanted to start doing a gig or whatever, he could fill in for drums for us, basically. Not necessarily at any point kind of be an official member, but he'd help us get started. And so that was sweet. And then And then there was Lewis, who we called then to play guitar, who again was another friend from I was in a band with him as a teenager when we were like 15 or something, and just really great guitarist, and he was available at that time, and so he ended up basically moving in as well for summer or something, and ended up kind of being there throughout it too. So that was cool. That was like there started to be some buzz and some momentum. Do you remember the rehearsals that we would do at your house?
So fun.
Yeah, we just kind of set up the whole sort of living room area and plug everything in through the speakers, and we had the big mirror there.
Yeah, we
and
did.
So we would literally kind of like perform to almost like in between being a 10-year-old girl singing into your hairbrush and like playing an actual rock show.
Well, the funny thing is we probably could. I mean, I've seen bands like actually do that live, like when we played gigs and stuff, and there'll be like a band and it will be a bassist and like a guitarist singer, and then the rest of their set is just run through the monitors, and they've just got a backing track that they play to. I mean, we were doing that, like, but we just didn't really think that was acceptable to like turn up to a gig and do something like that. I mean, we wanted the band, but it was very fun, like just jamming like that.
You're right. So we would I'd basically just plug in the tracks, the demos, the projects, and whatever, and just like isolate any of the parts that we were playing, like the bass and the guitar and whatever, and then just practice to that. And then so we had a couple of like actual rehearsals in a room with Lewis and Marcel, and then we played our first shows. And so I remember that we had this kind of process where we kind of got a bunch of songs together. I can't remember exactly how many, but I'm pretty sure we played like a 45-minute set on our first show or something.
I think we had about 7 songs.
So we had some kind of decent batch going there. And for our first show we organized it ourselves. So it was again, it was like a venue that we knew that we'd played at when we were a teenager, and we kind of thought that as it's our first show and we've been kind of building up to this for a long time, we can kind of get all our friends and family and stuff to come. So we did that and got some other kind of friendly musicians and stuff on as a part of it. And I mean, overall that went down pretty well. We kind of got a decent turnout at that place and played our first show there. And that was definitely a big stepping stone. I remember just feeling like absolutely smashed by that. Like I was totally exhausted, man.
It was a tiring, sweaty gig, and there was a lot of people in that room.
It was very, very hot, in a basement.
It's a really good gig. A really good first gig.
Yeah, it's a good start, And so that was us in 2016 when we were like 20 or something. And so I would say that was the whole kind of first phase in a way. I don't know how many phases we want to break this into, but that was the significant kind of beginnings to it all. I think as well, like another thing to maybe mention that we kind of can expand upon in a bit, but also during this time when we were just like spending a lot of time being creative and kind of trying to like properly put this project together, we did start playing around with concepts and stuff early on, and it took a little while until it evolved into definitely took a little while to evolve into what it is now. But I just remember we had this first phase in London. We started doing some stuff, but then we kind of got blocked, and I had all kinds of weird things going on in life, and I remember spending some time going abroad and trying to work things out or whatever, and trying kind of like get inspired about like what to write about and what this project should be. And I remember that I started coming up with this idea for a concept, kind of like a concept album, like a story. I remember I even made like a presentation or something.
I remember it.
It was some kind of document that like kind of went through the different chapters of the story and the different songs that would play a part in that. And all our early songs were sort of in this story, and it never ended up in that way. It never like sort of fully manifested to adopting this concept, and we never made that concept album. But the ideas that were in it were very much like a sort of prototype, you know, for what would later become ideas that we would use for the LovAnaverse. So we didn't use like stage names and stuff at that point. And it also wasn't really particularly like sort of fantasy themed or anything. It was I remember that we had these concepts of like you know, this guy and like the syndicates and stuff. And I remember that there was essentially this unique being. I think it was like an AI type being. It was a woman that was called Faye, I think. And but like she had some sort of property as if like her mind could create universes. It was pretty like far out, but the idea was that when the character met Faye and like sort of connected to her, he was able to sort of like go into her mind and go into this entirely alternative, like alternate reality. It was something pretty far out like that, but yeah, it's just funny or interesting to think about now that was very much kind of like just a rough sort of starting point for our kind of foray into playing with concepts and stuff. But anyway, yeah, so I guess really, yeah, that kind of stuff was more just sort of creatively in the background whilst we were writing and played up as gigs and stuff. The next big step was the 2017 era.
Yeah.
And obviously your parents came back from Malaysia and took their house back.
Yeah, they didn't need us to house it anymore.
Yeah, so
next step was moving in to Watford.
We were, you know, by that point we'd kind of got a taste for it and we'd got some momentum going, and it's like, okay, you know, let's keep this up. Let's, you know, let's get another place. And so we got a place sort of not too far away from where yours was, which is sort of like sort of just outside of London, like on to the north.
Yeah, I mean, you can still use your Oyster card to get there, so
yeah,
it was about as far as we could you know, exactly, yeah, we could afford it. We could afford it, and we could get into town on our Oyster card, and
yeah.
That you know, that ticked the box.
That was it. So yeah, I just got like some job, whatever job that I could find, so we could pay rent on the place. And you had your job, and yeah, and so then we rented a place together. And yeah, at that time I remember thinking like, okay, we really had to level things up now. Like we really had to take things seriously, and we've had a kind of taste of like, all right, finally after all this time we've got a band together, and you know, we've kind of got an idea of our music and our songs and stuff now. But yeah, now it was time to really get stuck into, you know, trying to make it as a band. And
and finding a solid lineup as well, because you know, by the time we'd moved in, you know, it was kind of back to us two, really.
It's true. Yeah, we'd kind of used our favors up.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so yeah, to really kind of take things to the next level, we needed to form a more solid lineup for sure. But yeah, at this point we were definitely like I was gonna say that we were a lot more on it. I mean, it was definitely still a very chaotic time,
Yeah.
but we were proactive. Definitely active.
Yeah.
At this point, I definitely stopped sort of like living in my head and hiding away from the world. And
Yeah, and we were able to. I think those first couple of gigs it really gave us a presence as well. A lot of people saw that. People saw that we were in a band, and especially on your side of things, a lot of the people that you had been in contact all those years ago, especially going to the music college and stuff. You had a lot of contacts that I think saw that you actually had a legit band that had done a couple of gigs. We had like photographs and stuff of us and video footage of us performing, which we just kind of put out there. And when it came round again for us to start advertising for yet more musicians, there was actually a pretty good response, and people were responding to it. And that was kind of when Max and Oscar walked in through the door, and you reached out to Max, didn't you? And Oscar reached out to you. I think that's
true. Oscar reached out to me. Yeah,
yeah. Oscar was like,
"Hey
man, don't know if you still need a drummer, but because he came to that gig.
That was just crazy.
He came
to the first gig that we did. Yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't know he was there because didn't he come in, watch it, and then he had to go, which is like so classic.
I saw him.
Oh, you did see him
when I was there. The thing was that so I went to music school with Oscar. I just went there for a year, and yeah, I hadn't seen him since then, I think. But we kind of we knew each other then. We kind of did a bit of music together at the time, but it didn't really go anywhere. But what it was is the band that we got to support us at our first gig. I think it was Fangpools at the time. I don't know if they're still together.
Yeah,
that's with
that's
Dave and Shane. That were also two guys that both Oscar and I went to music school with, and so Oscar was like really good friends with them, and had been like in touch with them a lot more. So the fact that they were playing the gig with us, I think that he predominantly went there to support them basically, or may have known that I was playing as well. Maybe they mentioned it to him. I'm not too sure. All I remember is Oscar just turned up at our first ever gig. And yeah, I was super surprised to see him. I hadn't seen him in years, and it was really cool to see him there. But yeah, then what it was is when Max joined the band in 2017, who was another guy that was in our class back then. And Max is super sort of glam rock dude, yeah. And so yeah, he was a cool rock guy in London, and so I thought, okay, yeah, he could fit the part great. Got in contact with him, and he was up for it. And I remember we took some pictures around our house one day with Max, with the three of us, and we perhaps posted something about how Max was in the band now. And and then Oscar saw that. And so then Oscar got in touch with me, like, wow, that's so cool that you got Max in the band, and that's wicked. Like, if you guys need a drummer, just let me know. And I'm like, well, we literally need a drummer, so do you wanna come around and see how it goes? That was pretty mad.
I mean, we got some humor out of that as well, because it was kind of like you were like, oh,
I was like, send him something.
Could you just send us like a clip of you like jamming something out on the drums, and like, we I mean, he admitted to how much that stressed him out, because like he had his shitty phone or whatever it was, and he'd obviously like got to the drum kit, and man, there was, what was it? He had to record it through something. That was it. He recorded it on his phone, and then in order to like send it to us, like he had to then play it, record it on another thing, and then send us this and like
some ridiculously convoluted way.
He had to send. I think he had to send us like a video of the video that he'd taken. Yeah, it was basically, we got this thing, and it was like this moment as well where, you know, he sent you a message and been like, right, I've sent you this thing, like blah blah blah, and like I got home from work and you were like, I've got Oscars. Let's call it an audition tape.
Yeah.
And you know, we were like sitting down, we were like, oh, get ready, you know, did our little rituals and stuff to like get ready to listen to this this thing, and yeah, like total piece of shit. Like,
no, wait, can I just clarify? Yeah, can I just clarify? It wasn't that he was.
No, the quality, the fact that we couldn't hear anything.
All you see is him, like, you know, and this is, I remember it was very blurry and pixelated, but I suppose, you know, whatever, like, just saw him, and he goes and sits at the drums, and that's all good. Yeah. And the moment he started playing, it's just noise.
It's
like,
just, just noise.
Anything. You can't make anything out whatsoever.
Yeah, so we're sitting there, and we're like, I think it's good. And you're kind of like, you're like, to be fair, Oscar was always a really great drummer. Like, there's no reason that he's not going to be a great drummer anymore. And
it was just always like,
you even said to me at that point, you were like, there's only one thing about Oscar, and that's he doesn't do dynamics. You know, it's one level.
He plays you said that as hard as you could possibly play.
And to be honest, man, I wouldn't change anything. Like, it gave us a totally new sort of like element to our sound, and every gig we ever played, someone would always come up to us and just be like, because he would always dash after every gig, you know, he would be gone. Like, it would be like, oh, you know, off the stage, and he'd still be covered in sweat and in his pants, and he'd just be like, anyway, see you at rehearsals, guys, I gotta go. And you know, people come up to us and be like, oh, you know, you're a drummer, man, where is, like, he's awesome, like, he's so awesome. And like, everyone always loved what Oscar
just because he had mad energy. Like, that was it. It's like, he always had to take all his clothes off. I mean, as you said, he'd normally be like in his boxers or whatever.
Yeah.
Just because, like, yeah, he just hit the drums with 150%. Like,
yeah.
And so he
broke
just
so much equipment.
Man.
And he had to have everything. Like 10 sets of sticks with him, because he would get through, like, no joke, but he would break like 6 sticks like per set.
Every rehearsal, and every
break show, pedals, like everything. Like, it was
it took a while before we just like managed to put together equipment that like could actually hold up.
Yeah,
like Oscar playing it. Like, he probably went through quite a few bass pedals before.
Well, by the end, I remember sort of like one of the later gigs that we played, like one of the last gigs that we played, and I was helping him out with his equipment, like to get it all set up or whatever, and I just grabbed his snare. He bought this snare, like, it was brand new, like he bought it when he started playing with us in the band, and like, a few years later we're playing like one of our last shows, and I've picked this thing up and I've been like, holy shit, man, like, this thing is like completely rusted, because all of his sweat from playing had just like started to decay this snare drum, like to the point where there was just rust everywhere. And like, he never cleaned anything, or ever, like, it would just get chucked in the back of his car, and I guess he'd dig it out again whenever we played a gig. But yeah, just the state of this snare drum, man, it's just hilarious. Yeah,
it was the state of everything, man. He would crack the cymbals, and as you say, like, just so many broken sticks all the time.
Yeah,
like, yeah, he was just a beast, like a total beast. And so
beast.
That was it, as you said, like, even from the start, I just remembered, even in music school, like, he was always a cool guy, and he always played drums well. It was just the teachers and stuff were just always saying, like, you know, dial it back, like, he would just hit it so hard and just like so loud,
And you know, and we kind of wanted to have that. I mean, we'd written songs with ideas for them to be a bit more dynamic, but like
Absolutely,
we
yeah.
had to really change all of that. And you know, as soon as we say to him like, yeah, you know, maybe you could even get some brushes for this bit, like we kind of imagined this bit being played with brushes, and it was just like,
well, Marcel played it with brushes. Do you remember?
Yeah, Marcel's a good boy though.
Yeah, compared to Oscar, man,
Oscar wasn't having that. Over fair play to him. I mean, like, I wouldn't.
No, he was literally like they talk about like a caveman drummer. I mean, I don't think it gets more caveman than Oscar. Like totally. He just gets on the kit and he's just like a beast that just slams it as hard as he can.
Yeah,
and yeah, as you say, man, it's fantastic because it just gave character to our music. It became
it sounds so good on the album as well. Like, I mean, my favorite parts really is a lot of it is just the character and the drumming and how well that was captured. Like, yeah, what a drummer! What a drummer!
Yeah. So, yeah, fair play to Oscar. So okay, all right. So yeah, we got that band together, and we had Oscar, we had Max for a time. We were playing a lot then. After that, like the momentum kind of started. It felt like
we were rehearsing so much.
Yeah.
Playing a lot, like sometimes two gigs a week, 2 rehearsals a week. Like, yeah, we really went for it. We were going hard on it. To be fair,
especially in London. Yeah, we were out there. All the time.
2017 was a very busy year. Like, we did a lot of gigs.
So that was pretty much like, and at this same time, so when we'd got this place together, when we were getting the this Flavour Nurse lineup together and getting active and stuff, that's also when we founded LovAnaverse. And I think that, you know, perhaps on another episode we can go a bit more into LovAnaverse and the LovAnaverse stuff. But yeah, just to kind of tie it in with the timeline, like I just remember the main thing there was that we were thinking like we need to, be kind of more in control of this situation in terms of like if we want to make a name for ourselves, we got to kind of think of this as a business.
Yeah.
Even though we were like so clueless, man, we were completely clueless. I remember that we just kind of all got each other sort of pumped up about it,
jacked up, yeah.
And there was a few other people involved and stuff as well.
Yeah, a lot of ideas floating around, everyone wanting to pitch in some way, but kind of like no one really ever being able to cut through the noise. It was, imagine like 10 people in a room with loads of cool ideas, just sort of shouting them at the top of their voice, and then that being that's a business meeting. That's kind of what it was.
That was how it started.
Realistically, what the business did for us then was it incentivized us to start putting on our own shows and to all the bands that you would kind of pick up from going out and socializing and meeting people, and even bands that we were on lineups with, we would then be like, maybe we put on our own gigs and do that. It was better than playing for promoters and playing really small venues. We could get bands that we knew and really promote to a specific audience of followers that we knew that would come and see us. And doing it that way, it meant that we did end up having quite a few gigs that had some really good turnouts.
That's true. No, I 100% agree. I think that, as you say, LovAnaverse, it became more of a device for the two things. Like, we promoted our own shows. Not that, we necessarily did that in a strictly kind of business way, but it just gave us a name. It gave us something to put there that wasn't just like Flavour Nurse, because Flavour Nurse was our band. Mm-hmm. And the idea was that it would be a bit more sort of collaborative than that there was a bigger picture and that we could include a whole bunch of bands. As you say, like, we put on shows and kind of do things with other bands that we'd find. So, we wouldn't want to put all of that under Flavour Nurse. And so, LovAnaverse was really kind of our device for that. And yeah, really for a while it was really more just kind of like our community that we were creating of bands and artists, and I don't know, just people that tagged along.
Yeah,
a lot of crazy characters.
In terms of like crazy characters and tagging along, we need to mention the fact that like Grundle Bumfist was pretty much always there. So we hadn't mentioned that, but like so like he was
Rob.
the fifth member of the band, Rob.
Rob, our friend Robert Darlington.
Yeah,
but Grundle, everybody knew him as Grundle.
Yeah,
and yeah, that's just where, like, I mean, I think I said this before at one point, but like, yeah, I think the Grundle character existed even before any of the LovAnaverse stuff, really.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I remember first. Yeah, I do remember Grundle.
It was some party or something that.
Yeah, we were hanging out. We were hanging out, and you know, we were doing stupid stuff, and I think we were just trying to make each other laugh with like some really funny like characters that we'd all come up with. And like he went first, and he came in last. Like, it was the last one to go. We were all just like already in like such a silly mood, and he comes in, Grundle Bumfist, and like starts doing some weird like, I don't know, I can't even remember what he was doing back then.
Let's not go into too much detail.
Yeah, but it was just the birth of this hilarious character, and yeah, he was he's even on video at our first ever show, and he's just at the front, and like all you can see is his hair. Like
that was it. Yeah. So from this first,
he's always been a big main character of our shows.
Man,
even when he wasn't Grundle.
But you know, it was the fact that it was the Love Is the Reason guitar solo.
Yeah,
in our original footage of our first ever show, it was when I was playing that guitar solo, and that was kind of almost like my big guitar solo. And he just goes in front of the camera and does such epic headbanging throughout the entire solo that it just takes up like the whole view. He just kind of almost steals the show of the footage.
Yeah.
And so ever since that moment, like, yeah, he was always kind of like a part of that show. And so when it came to the shows in 2017 with the lineup going forward, like, yeah, we actually sort of put Grundle in the show. And yeah, he was like as well, like at that time. So, you know, we talk about making Love Anarchy and lots of people in a room shouting crazy ideas together. And during that kind of time, that's when we sort of really, you know, put together this kind of whole LovAnaverse idea. That yeah, we just started kind of like playing around with stories and stuff. And some of it was even picked up out of stuff just over the years from Yumi and Rob or whatever growing up. Stuff like Grundle. But yeah, we basically created all our own characters and such. And so I had Gaius and you were Sabias, and yeah, the idea was that like all the Flavour Nurse members, we were all kind of characters and had names. But then Grundle was sort of also a part of that, even though he wasn't technically like a Flavour Nurse band member. But we kind of came up with this whole elaborate backstory where, like, well, Grundle is like, you know, he's in like Blacktongue Bowl or whatever, and he has his own like spaceship.
Yeah, and you know, even, I mean, Grundle was just so useful to have as well. I mean, you know, he was a fifth member. Just in, you know, we were always so ambitious with what we wanted in a live show, and you know, we wanted theatrics and stuff like that. And you know, obviously, we're concentrating playing. We're trying to be as theatrical as possible, and like, you know, moving around stage and stuff. But you know, Grundle definitely helped us have this extra element of, you know, he would have props and he would do things on stage that people would just be drawn to, and he gave us that theatrical edge, which, you know, we always wanted in a band. We wanted to be, you know, we wanted to be pure entertainment, and that's
you're right. He just really added that wild card aspect to our show. We were very like flamboyant.
We were,
like, you know, especially from even from the start, from the first shows, we were wearing like, I was wearing like glitter makeup and stuff. But like, especially 2017 when we kind of hit the ground running, like, yeah, I mean, we were well, we always had crazy makeup and stuff, but crazy costumes and all the kind of glam stuff, and it was glam like with sequins and feathers and all of that stuff, but it was also, I don't know, we'd mix all kinds of crazy elements.
It was just all of
meant
our
to
favorite
be,
things, which we had so many of. Like,
and that was what where Flavour Nurse came from in a way as well. Was just that, yeah, we were just trying to mix all all our favorite things together. We couldn't really decide, and that's why it was Flavour Nurse. It was like a name that's like all the different flavors and all the different kind of spectrum of colors. And so yeah, it was already pretty kind of flamboyant and outlandish and kind of theatrical and larger than life. We would turn people's heads like just with that, and people would, talk about us being like photogenic or standing out. But yeah, but Grundle took things to another level for sure. Like we got some pretty funny comments about Grundle, and
we did,
and stuff like people just would not know how to react to him sometimes, and he was kind of like our hype man at some of the shows. I mean, as you said, we had him doing different antics.
Smoke machines, like that was awesome. Like strobe lights, he would just do whatever whatever he could. I mean, he had the little camera sometimes that he'd go around filming little bits.
Grundle cam.
Which, that was a bit of entertainment when we would sort of like discover these hidden files on like an old laptop and be like, oh, well, what's this? And it would just be footage of Grundle like filming like Oscar's balls falling out of his boxers, like mid show and stuff like that. It would just funny stuff.
Yeah, he would anyway, suppose we should move on. So 2017, we were definitely pretty active throughout that time. There's all sorts to it, I suppose. Like
there's loads of stories.
I mean, we could probably get into plenty of stories.
Yeah, that probably was like one of that was definitely one of the most sort of like. And there's a lot of anecdotes from that time, which will have to just be covered at other points.
I would call it like 2017, 2018 during that time, especially 2017 when we were living together in that house.
Yeah.
But 2018 it carried on with all the live shows and stuff. The main change with Flavour Nurse was Max left the band, and we replaced him with Anthony.
Yeah.
Or the Raven.
Yeah. And we started we started really honing in on our sound as well then. We brought in a backing track that you worked on, started doing.
So that was it, 2017, 2018. That was the main difference was we played loads of gigs and we were super active for a while. We got a lot of momentum, and then towards the end of the year we kind of just pulled back and reevaluated, swapped out. Remember, we got Anthony in the band.
Yeah, and we recorded.
We started recording our first song. Yes, Side Effects. So we went into the recording studio, like properly for the first time. Like, even all the stuff that I'd done before, it was always intended to be demos. So this was the first time that we were really like, okay, we're going to record music to release as a band.
Yeah.
And so we started doing that, and then we did session in a recording studio that was a fantastic studio in the Docklands. But then ultimately we took like all of the stems from the session, and like Anthony is also a recording engineer, like producer as well. So and Anthony and I, we kind of like worked on that for a good while, like on that production and on kind of mixing that song and stuff. Like Anthony actually did the final mix and master for that track, because I was still sort of relatively early in my development for that. But so he joined the band. Like he had actually already been our live sound engineer for a while before that. Not necessarily on every show, but he had engineered quite a lot of Flavour Nurse shows in 2017. And he was like a good friend of ours. He was always at our house and in the entourage, as it were. So yeah, it made sense for him to join the band. He was already pretty close to the band. And then then we really focused on refining our sound, recording the music. But yeah, exactly, when we came back to rehearse for the next set of live shows post the release of the single, we kind of wanted to tighten things up a lot. Well, I certainly wanted to tighten up the ship a lot and bring in a backing track. There was a couple of reasons for the backing track. One was to get more elaborate with the arrangements, because I was definitely getting more ambitious with that. And the other was just to like try and tame Oscar somehow.
It worked as well.
It worked really well, just because the thing is, like, we've spoken obviously about his dynamics, but like at the time he was just so unpredictable to the point that, like, he would move tempo significantly a lot as well.
And all it would really take is for him to do kicking around, maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 BPM too fast, and it would just throw everything out.
Man, because I would have to sing that
song. It was such a fast song, and it was
so quick.
Yeah, and it was already difficult to do that song.
Kill me, and we'd often put it like second in our set or something.
Yeah,
and I would sing that song like way too fast and have my throat like gone for the rest of the of the set. So we really kind of like put an effort in refining things a lot for that kind of I don't know, let's say second half of live, that era. But yeah, I mean, Anthony had a great contribution to the band.
Massive contribution. In so many ways. I mean, even with just being able to like set our guitars up, like he would literally take our guitars and just do a full-on setup for us, and then we'd have like fresh guitars ready to go. Sound wise, in Flavour Nurse, like, he's such a good guitarist.
He was kind of sort of perfect. He would kind of play really the parts with such precision.
The only thing is, we never really got him to like throw some backing vocals, because Anthony is actually an incredible singer as well. But he was just a bit too shy.
He's kind of full of talents. That guy, man. Like, but he's definitely more reserved in that way. But he was really passionate about Flavour Nurse. I mean, still is
really passionate.
and even before joining the band, he was really passionate about what we were doing, and he definitely took it very kind of sincerely. Joined the band, and he really gave a lot to it, and so
he did.
It was fantastic to have him in there, and I think that the kind of definitive Flavour Nurse lineup will always feel like that one.
Completely.
The two of us with Anthony and with Oscar, that was we had kind of synergy with that lineup. And obviously because we tightened things up in our sound and our show, and we're kind of refining what we were about. Like 2018 was we were a better band. I would say 2017 was still a bit more wild and chaotic, but
we were tight in 2018. We were tight. We paid a lot of attention to how we were playing things, and we were kind of, because we recorded side effects as well. I feel like we were starting to gear towards recording an album that was kind of in our sights at that point. So it became really important that we were performing our songs the way we intended them to sound, and the way we would have wanted them to actually have been produced, if we ever went into a studio. So there was just a lot more attention to detail at that point.
Well, that's where we were at that time. But I believe, if I've got this correctly, it was 2018.
It was
like in the summer that we did actually start recording an album.
Exactly.
And that was at the time that Bogdan reached out to us. And Bogdan as well is just another super talented dude, like multi-talented, musician himself, an artist, but again, another, producer, sound engineer. And yeah, we were, in hindsight, we were definitely so, lucky.
We were very lucky, yeah.
In a way, to have somebody like that reach out to us. And yeah, he basically was doing a master's degree in some kind of sound engineering, and in London. He was from Serbia, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah, he basically was looking like he wanted to produce a record. I think he was just looking for like an EP or something, like 5 songs that he wanted to produce with a band. But the thing is, this was his like end of year thing, and this is what he'd been sort of like, looking forward to the whole time. He really wanted to work with a band that he really liked, and to genuinely make a great record, rather than just pass his tests or whatever. And so yeah, I remember him telling me that he basically just like looked up all the bands that were on the Camden Rocks festival lineup, because most of them are somewhat local to London. And yeah, and he found us, and really liked what we were doing. He was really into kind of grunge and the sort of alternative rock stuff. We had a lot of kind of crossover there, so I think he liked that in our sound as well, even though the a bit heavier and a bit more modern as well. I think that he has that kind of sensibility, but also obviously he liked our kind of flamboyance too. It just differentiated us from the rest. So yeah, so he reached out to us and asked us if basically we wanted to record with him, and that he wouldn't charge us anything basically, and that we'd get like 5 songs out of it. And I remember at the time we just thought like, well, yeah, what have we got to lose? Like, we're at that point, we've got Side Effects, would have sort of most of an album together, and then at that point we just need to maybe get a few more tracks together or whatever and finish our debut album. So yeah, we just kind of jumped on it and started recording with Bogdan. But to be honest, at this time, like, things were already sort of like starting to kind of unravel a little bit in the seams, in terms of like, we had good momentum for a while, being like a band, like an upcoming band, playing loads of gigs or whatever. But like, after doing that for a while, I mean, me personally, like, I was definitely kind of starting to get pretty jaded with it.
I think as well, I think Oscar was definitely struggling with the commitment. I think he was really itching to sort of...
It's true. We all were in a way. In our own ways.
I think we were. I think it was kind of that point where it was like, we put so much energy and we worked so hard for such a long time.
Yeah, we put a lot into it.
And it's just one of those things where it's kind of like, I think that you either really need to enjoy the moment and be willing to just go in and go into London, play some gigs and enjoy that feeling and enjoy being on the stage. And I think we kind of almost had that approach where it was going to be like, we're going to hit it really hard, we're going to play as many gigs as possible, and we're going to just kind of level above that kind of pub club scene in London, and get on to the next thing, and start playing, being a sort of a bigger band, as it were. But the reality is that it's just, you have to you got to enjoy the ride. And I think the issue was that we were just getting more and more frustrated by the ride. And and I think Oscar, I think it was difficult for him to commit anyway. Like even in the beginning, he was always kind of doubting himself and feeling guilty about the fact that, he, felt like he wanted to go and be elsewhere sometimes. And I just think that we kind of just we weren't that as good as that lineup was. It wasn't going to sustain constant gigging in London and at pubs and stuff, and for that much longer. And we identified that, and we just tried to figure out a way to continue to sort of have a band that actually existed, and whilst also not trying to ruin the chemistry in doing so. And that's when we decided to kind of, I guess, take more of a sort of a studio band approach rather than a physical sort of like touring band. That kind of was our vision then.
That had been our kind of primary focus for a while. Is like, our goal is to get to the next stage and be touring and whatnot, just put out albums and be this band. And it's true, as like it was not seeming sustainable. As you say, like you got to do it for the love of it and enjoy the process. And I can definitely say that at that time I was not really enjoying the process. I remember like feeling like I really started to just not enjoy playing the gigs, just because I cared about them so much. I was definitely like really passionate about them, and I wanted to put like so much into them. But I just always felt like it was so much investment and energy.
It really was.
So just
well, from the outset, we didn't want to play in front of nobody. That was kind of like a constant fear of ours, that we'd been to gigs, we'd been to friends' gigs
before.
That's being a
local band,
and exactly. And we'd done that. We'd been to our friends' gigs and stuff, and we'd stood there and we'd be like, we know what it's like to kind of play and there just be like 3 guys in the audience or something. And that was something that we just kind of like feared so much. And before any gig, we would be asking everybody we had, like, and we'd be trying to promote it and get people to come. Sure. And we always would end up with like at least like 20 people coming down to our gigs, and that was just how we had to have it. I mean, we didn't really want it any other way. And what it just meant that every gig, even if it was just like this small gig at a pub in London, the amount that we actually the amount of energy it took to actually get there, perform, we were already knackered by the time we got there, because we'd been up all night trying to get people to commit to coming down. And then once you've got in there, and it was just a tiring experience.
And as you say as well, you got to like drive, or you got work the next day or whatever. By this point I was like completely sober. And so again, like it just wasn't a party, that was probably the big difference between.
And in high insight as well, like just to another bit of wisdom, I guess, for anyone kind of like doing that now, and like there's going out and playing these gigs, it's got to be something that if you want to do it for a long period of time, you have to make it sustainable. And like you are just going to play some gigs where people don't turn up, but you can't keep relying on the same people to come down to that same gig. You've got to pay your dues, and you've got to play those gigs where no one's going to show up. And then eventually you are going to develop a bigger and loyal fan base that will be willing to sort of like come out on a Wednesday evening and come and see your show. And it's just it's one of those things. And like if you have the kind of mindset that we had, which was like it's just going to be 2017, for example, we're going to spend that and we're going to play gigs, like multiple gigs every week, and it was like a non-stop party, and we're going to get loads of people down to every show, and it's just going to be momentum. If you have that approach, you will burn yourself out, and I think I think you will. And like if you want to if you want to make it sustainable, you know, and do the gig thing, like you kind of have to be willing to just, you know, take it all in your stride, I guess, and not kind of like not overdo it too early and then try and sort of maintain a standard that is just quite difficult to, you know, to maintain. So
Yeah, there's some wisdom in that for sure. I mean, that's definitely our experience, right? And that was always my mindset. You know,
yeah,
go in 110%, and
but
go crazy,
yeah,
and then have a massive burnout.
yeah, there's nothing there's nothing wrong with going in 110%, but it's just you got to think of the long road. And like, you know, fortunately for us, like, you know, you kind of identified this different route that you wanted to take, and that's worked out well for you. But I'm just thinking, like, there might be other bands out there that kind of do want to do the live circuit thing, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just, you know, make sure that you can keep it up,
100%,
because things aren't going to happen, you know, in the space of a few months. It's going to take, you know, you got to grind it, you know, no matter which route you take, you got to grind.
Even in our story, man, like, you know, we only really were hitting that hard for a couple of years, and that's still not enough, to be honest. You know, you shouldn't be expecting to be super successful after a couple of years doing that.
And that's what I mean by you just got to enjoy the ride. Like, you know, you kind of, you got to enjoy just going out there and playing music, because that's you know, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, well, you said that we kind of like, you know, it was not really working with us playing live, so kind of decided to become more of a studio band. There's definitely more, some more to it than that. So I think, you know, perhaps we can kind of delve a little bit into that, and then, you know, perhaps look to kind of close up. But like, in terms of the kind of timeline, we got to this point that we were making music with Bogdan. And I think, again, that was like another big sort of nail in the coffin, nail in the coffin for that era, I suppose. Like, it was another big turning point, especially like me, because at this point, man, like, I remember, I was burning out. You know, I was really starting to feel burned out from everything that we were doing. I was really kind of jaded about it. And then Bogdan came in with this opportunity to record, and there was almost an element of like, you know, this thing pops into my head of like having a baby to save the marriage type situation, that it almost felt like at the time, like, oh, well, maybe, you know, we can make a record, and that's going to kind of like, you know, make it all work or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, anyway, the thing is, we couldn't really argue with the opportunity. Like, we knew that we wanted to record our music and stuff, but it was expensive and this and that. So the fact that Bogdan reached out to us kind of, you know, made us go and do that. I suppose we just, like, you know, didn't have a good enough reason not to do that, I think. So, so that got us going with recording the record. But that process definitely really really made me realize and rethink a lot of things. Because as well, like, during all of this, we were sort of like recalibrating what we were working on, and you know, artistically, how we were going about everything, and like in terms of business and whatever, like how that was going to work. We were rethinking the whole thing. We were putting less priority on like being a gigging band, and at that point started to kind of go back to thinking about the other kind of ideas that we'd had. And obviously at that point there was the LovAnaverse that we had talked about before. It had kind of come up, you know, gone up and down in terms of how much we were invested in that over the years. But, you know, there was a time that we were like, yeah, LovAnaverse, like, that's the thing that we should create. And then for the most part through the band phase, we used the LovAnaverse. It was always a thing. There was always like our characters and stuff. But yeah, eventually it kind of came to a point where I thought like that's actually what we should be focusing on. And yeah, it's because like previously I'd been like spending all this time going to gigs and whatever, and I kind of got burned out from that, and instead starting to kind of look at other places for inspiration and whatnot. And yeah, that really kind of pulled things on to that kind of time I said to you and obviously Rob as well, that like, yeah, we should really start talking about the LovAnaverse more again. And yeah, so recording with Bogdan, we were kind of we were in the middle of all of that. And I remember just thinking like, what record are we trying to make here? And I'm sitting there in the vocal booth thinking like, I don't know how to communicate to Bogdan that like this is meant to be like some sort of alien space opera. Like how do I say make it sound more like that? Because it just sounds like a total load of nonsense. Like it's like, okay, yeah, it's cool, but like, can you make it like with more like magical
I guess it just further highlighted your just your kind of goals that you needed to achieve in just being able to have control over that process. How can you articulate that to someone who's not kind of on the same page as we are with all this concept stuff, and from then kind of having that experience working with a producer and stuff, like you kind of, that was when you sort of decided that that's kind of what you needed to be doing.
Yeah, that's what I kind of realized at that stage. Because that's the thing, I like respected Bogdan so much and still do to this day. I'm honestly a huge fan of Zero String, his project. The music he makes is amazing. And the thing is as well, like I would put somewhere sonically in a similar ballpark to Flavour Nurse. So he did get it, and I thought that like the versions of our songs and stuff that he made, like, they were great, and they had this great, modern alternative kind of grunge infused sound, and that is a part of our sound for sure. They just didn't capture this extra quality that I had in mind for Flavour Nurse that I couldn't articulate. And yeah, that process made me realize like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm being a control freak here, maybe I'm being a perfectionist here. But like it made me realize that like, yeah, my vision extends to that, the like in terms of my ideas of what I want to create, like the production and the mix and everything is a part of that whole thing. And that meant that like I needed to actually be serious about becoming that. Like I needed to become a producer, and I needed to learn how to mix and do these things, because I didn't even necessarily realize before that that's what I needed to do. I kind of all just thought about the whole thing as like being an artist. Whereas like, yeah, I realized after that experience, and especially because Bogdan was just like really on it, and obviously he'd been studying to be an engineer like that. Like I realized like, shit, yeah, I need to learn all of that stuff. I need to equip myself with that. And obviously with that in mind, that was just another big thing of like, well, where's the time for all of this like gigging in the pubs and the clubs, And so definitely like as we were moving more towards LovAnaverse and things like again, I just, was kind of had such creative itches of wanting to do different kinds of music and work with different people on different stuff all the time. And so yeah, I just realized like that's a more appropriate route to go. Basically, if I learn how to produce and mix and can make records from scratch, then we can kind of make these concepts, these ideas, these characters, and then we can sort of create that whole thing like how we sort of fully intend it to be. So so yeah, from that point on, like I kind of got my head down with that, and yeah, like Flavour Nurse definitely started to kind of wind down on playing shows and stuff. We made those recordings with Bogdan, and you know, at least he, you know, got you know, his degree and everything. So you know, it wasn't wasted by any means, but like we just kind of put them on the shelf, the recordings, for a while. And yeah, I mean, kind of decided to sort of eventually close things up with Flavour Nurse. I remember like for a while it was like, you know, we were gonna try and kind of like pull everything together again for another big push in 2019 or whatever. And then I think we just decided like, do you know what, let's you know, just focus our efforts here. Let's kind of close off this end of an era and finish kind of playing these shows and stuff that we've been doing for a while. And you're making everybody have to drive around, even though by this point we all lived totally like away from each other and stuff. You know, and so yeah, we just played like a couple of shows in 2019 and kind of ended an era like that. And so yeah, you know, since then, like there's kind of the rest of the blanks in this journey with Love Anarchy and LovAnaverse and how everything developed. But yeah, ultimately we got to like 2021 where it had been the plan, obviously, the whole time. When we kind of closed Flavour Nurse off in 2019, it wasn't really meant to be like the end of the band.
No, it wasn't. No,
it was never going to be. I mean,
Never.
like especially as we had it, like we always had a vision for this and stuff. We had just refined this vision in a way that was like, okay, it's not going to be all about, you know,
live gigs and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, but we still, I mean, we're super passionate about.
Yeah,
about
the thing is that we were, you know, the LovAnaverse was always just that was like the other project, you know, and it was just kind of more of a case of us finally, you know, realizing that that we had to just blend the two projects together, and that, you know, Flavour Nurse was going to be more than just, you know, your kind of your touring pub band. You know, we wanted to be a, you know, a kind of a part of a bigger thing, a bigger project.
Wanted to be, yeah, the band that brings in the LovAnaverse.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of that's how things have been now for, I guess, since we played that last show, and you know, started.
Oh yeah. Well, eventually, I mean, I suppose the biggest thing in Flavour Nurse's trajectory, like, and story after that is that, like, you know, in 2021, having like spent some time kind of getting things together, refining things, I spent, you know, a lot of time during that, you know, producing and mixing and mastering and getting better there and making other records. So we kind of eventually got to a point where we're like, okay, we can actually finally put the Flavour Nurse record together. I mean, again, even during that process, there were multiple versions and attempts at Flavour Nurse stuff and remixes. And so, I mean, a lot of the Bogdan recording, it went into the final album. A lot of those tracks, all of the drums that Oscar recorded, and yeah, and a lot of it, it went in there, but we just also sort of re-recorded some parts, added a load of extra stuff, and I think I re-recorded all the vocals. And yeah, we just kind of built on top of those and added a couple more tracks, and yeah, spent time just producing and arranging and mixing that whole thing. And eventually got it to a point where after years and years, I mean, like, it was 4 years from when we started those recordings with Bogdan. And I mean, literally like 7 years or something since we first started Flavour Nurse and started writing like Love Is the Reason and Kicking Around.
Yeah.
You know, we finally put versions down on record that were like, okay, yeah, these are the songs that we've been trying to create this whole time, and this is the kind of culmination of all the different sort of directions that we've gone over the years. Like, yeah, this is the result of it.
Yeah. You're almost forgetting as well that we made a music video as well, which
I did.
Oh man, I feel like maybe we should just do an episode on the music video.
we actually should. I was thinking about that too.
Yeah.
I mean, perhaps we can. I don't think we have time to go into that fully, but ultimately it was the same kind of deal as the Bogdan recordings, because we basically did it at the same kind of time. We started making a music video, and again, we were always overly ambitious, so we had this idea to make like a movie of like music videos of all of the tracks from the album and how it's all gonna play like into
we
some.
should still do that though, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, it's a cool idea. It's just ever
ambitious.
It's obviously an insane amount of work, especially considering we still plan to do the whole thing with no money.
Mm-hmm.
So we made one DIY music video, and man, it was really cool. Like, we were really creative with that, and spent little to nothing just being creative with like makeup and driving into the Lake District and whatever, and visiting the Druids Temple and whatnot. And it was all really cool. But again, it was the same thing, and especially for me, just being very like caught up in all the crap about like trying to work out what direction to take things in and whatnot. We did a rough cut of the video, just like, the mixes from Bogdan's recordings. And it was just kind of like nah, like put it on the shelf, like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, I don't want to release this. It needs to be different somehow, but I don't know how. And so it was the exact same thing, basically. It just, that music video and the stuff we'd shot for it kind of stayed on the shelf in the pile of Flavour Nurse stuff with the Bogdan recordings and whatnot. And then again, like, came back in 2021 when we were putting the album together. We were like, man, we need to use that video. We need to I think that, again, like, maybe I just had this perfectionist angle of like wanting to create something that'd be so amazing, and then I kind of thought that maybe more like animation and stuff would be the way to go. But yeah, man, like, we just never had those resources, and I think that it was cool that we were just resourceful and went and made a DIY video like that, and it's good fun, like, especially you guys dressed up in the Distogon costumes and makeup and stuff. Like, it's cool, and we had a fun time doing that. And in the end, I'm really happy with the video. I think that by 2021, I kind of relaxed a bit more and became a bit detached from, I got some objectivity back on Flavour Nurse. And I think that that video is really fun. And so we put that video out. We put the album out.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, Flavour Nurse is
7 years of work. It's actually, people can actually see it.
That's it. People can see it. They can hear it. They can, enjoy it, hopefully. And in the end, it's everything that it was meant to be, which is ultimately, the pioneering act of the LovAnaverse. Like, Flavour Nurse was sort of like, the thing that carried us away through that whole trajectory. And it's the original LovAnaverse band, and the kind of start of everything that we're doing and everything that we've created. And that's the journey, I suppose.
Yeah, man, there we go. From jamming grunge songs in a small flat in Hackney to releasing an album and a music video and starting up a LovAnaverse musical universe. All of that, man, is this hell of a journey.
And that's it. And we're still only just getting started. But yeah, we definitely had a lot of crazy times coming up as a band, doing all those gigs, and I'm sure that in the future we can get into more kind of crazy anecdotes and funny stories from those times, because there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of content, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, but no, I suppose that's as good a place as any to leave it for today. So, man, it's been great having you on, like, just for chatting with me and reminiscing about this stuff.
It's good to catch up and stuff as well. Like,
yeah, always, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Creating a Universe. There was a lot to cover today regarding the topic of Flavour Nurse, and I hope you enjoyed listening. If there was anything in particular that stuck out to you, or anything you'd like to know more about, please do let us know, and we'd be happy to cover it in a future episode. As for now, be sure to check out Flavour Nurse. Debut album is available on all major platforms and to purchase at LovAnaverse.com. Links will be in the show notes. And until next time, friends, take care.